Here are the steps I want you to really follow. What I want you to follow when it comes to Form W-2. I mean, the thing is that when we talk about instructions for actually filling out Form W-2, you have to be very specific. Okay, so I want to talk to you first about boxes A through F. So those are boxes that represent employee/employer information. I want you to look on the screen here. So we are speaking about employee social security number, right? You want to talk about your employer EIN, the employer's name, address, and zip code. And you are basically also talking about the control number. Now, the control number is kind of important in terms of the reference category that you want to assign things, specific items to. So let me talk about, so box A, you want to be careful to ensure your employee's social security number is entered correctly here. And it's one of those things where the IRS is looking at the information in that form, on that in that box, if you will, and sort of reconciling that information to their other records. You want to enter your EIN number. You want to enter your name and address. You want to also enter your employee's name and address if this is really complementary to the information here. And the next screenshot I want you to look right now. We are speaking about gross wages, so gross wages, tips, and any other compensation. The total amount of federal income tax withheld from employee wages for the year. So this is applicable to the tax year. And 3, you have the total amount of Social Security wages for the year. So you have to understand one thing. Social Security wages can be different than the figure shown in box 1, as Social Security wages also include any deferrals to retirement plans, as well as contributions to health savings accounts. And this is kind of important. And so this box will also reflect whether the income threshold, which is basically as of right now, $160,200 has been hit. So once the threshold is reached, you would no longer include the wages above $160,200. And also 4, this is the total of Social Security tax withheld. This should not exceed $9,932.40. 5, those are the total wages subject to Medicare taxes. And so like Social Security wages, Medicare wages can also include retirement deferrals and HSA contributions, but unlike Social Security, there is no income threshold to reach, so all wages are included in the Medicare wage total. So HSA, this is health savings accounts. 7, we are speaking about the total Medicare tax withheld for the year, and that's for 6. For 7, you have to report any Social Security tips received. And 8 here, for restaurants and bars, you want to enter the any allocated tips that the employee received during the year. For 9, you leave it blank. 10, you report any dependent care assistance. And 11, you want to enter any distributions from non-qualified deferred compensation plans. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. Now let's talk about box 12. I want you to look on the screen. So box 12 is where a variety of tax deferred compensation, benefits, and non-monetary compensation are recorded. So we are speaking about non-monetary compensation because there are some cases where the compensation can be non-monetary. It doesn't always have to be through payments. So it's important to keep that in mind. So now when we talk about box 12, you have several codes here, and I want to go through the codes so you have a clear idea what I'm speaking about. And basically here, so this codes can include the following: A, uncollected Social Security or RRTA tax on tips; B, uncollected Medicare tax on tips but not additional Medicare tax; C, taxable cost of group term life insurance over $50; 4, elective deferrals to a Section 401k cash or deferred arrangement plans, including a simple 401k arrangement; 5E rather, elective deferrals under a Section 403B salary reduction agreements; F, you have elective deferrals under a Section 408K6 salary reduction SAP; and G, you have elective deferrals and employer contributions, including non-elective deferrals to a Section 457B deferred compensation plan; H, you have elective deferrals to a Section 501C 18D tax-exempt organization plan; J, you have non-taxable sick pay. So I'm going all the way. We're going to put this on the screen so that you have a clear idea what I'm speaking about. But it's pretty long and pretty comprehensive too. Okay. One thing I want to say here is that just make sure that you have the appropriate box. And then so that's for 12. For 13, you want to check the appropriate box for each of your employees if one of these conditions applies. For example, did this person earn money as a statutory employee? So you have to know that there may be limits to how W-2 income employees can contribute tax-free to your company's retirement plan. And this is not just at the federal level. You also have the state implications as well to keep in mind. 14, anything else that needs to be reported there. 15, you want to enter your state and your state identification number. This is usually your federal EIN number. 16, you want to enter taxable wages for the state if state income tax is reported in your state. 17, you want to display the total amount of state taxes that were withheld for the year. 18, if county or local tax is reportable, this is where you will enter employee wages. 19, you want to enter any county or local taxes withheld from employee wages. And for 20, you want to enter the name of the county or a local taxing agency. So everything depends upon your situation. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about the Form W-2. I want to give you an overview so you have a clear idea what I'm speaking about. So bottom line here is that if you have paid an employee more than $600 in a calendar year, you are required by law to send them a W-2 to help them get their taxes done and to help the government also ensure they are reporting everything correctly. So it's not just in terms of transparency, it's also in terms of regulatory compliance. So the amount I want you to really keep in mind here is $600. If you pay anything less than that, you don't have to send a W-2. So you must also provide on a W-2, you want to provide information about the withholdings that you had, like if you withheld federal, Social Security, and Medicare taxes from an employee's wages, no matter the total. Okay, so basically, one thing I want you to remember here is that Form W-2 reports an employee's annual wages as well as the amount of taxes withheld from their pay by their employer. Employees use the information on their W-2 to complete their personal income tax return. And employers must file a copy of each employee's W-2 with the Social Security Administration and the IRS. And employers may face penalties and fines if they fail to provide a correct W-2 to an employee, or fail, for that matter, to file with the federal government on time. So it's all about making sure that you are really staying on top of your obligations here, okay? And it's also important to really understand that in addition to providing W-2 forms to all employees, you are, as an employer, responsible for filing a copy of each employee's W-2 with the Social Security Administration, as well as submitting Form W-3, which includes all the totals from your employees. So for businesses with more than 250 employees, you will need to submit your W-2s electronically to the SSA along with your W-3. Okay, so it's important. So you want to really complete your paperwork on time and making sure that you are having the right information going to the right agency, going to the SSA or going to the IRS. That way you are really complying with all your tax obligations across the board. One thing I want to say here is that when we talk about the Form W-2, you have a constellation of purposes. It's not just one thing or another. You have a constellation of purposes. For example, you have income reporting. So the primary purpose of the W-2 form is to report the total wages and compensation earned by an employee during the tax year. So this includes what? When we talk about income, we are speaking about salary, of course. We are speaking about bonuses, tips, commissions, and other forms of compensation. You also have to think about tax withholding. So the W-2 form provides detailed information about the federal, state, and local income taxes withheld from an employee's paychecks throughout the year. So this helps taxpayers reconcile pretty accurately their tax liability with the amount already paid. So you want to really give, again, an extra layer of transparency to the IRS, but also to the taxpayer. You also have Social Security and Medicare taxes. So a Form W-2 reports the amounts paid into Social Security and Medicare by both the employee and the employer. So this information is crucial for determining eligibility and benefits under these programs. You also have verification for taxpayers. So employees use the W-2 form to verify the accuracy of their income and tax withholdings when preparing their income tax returns. And this ensures in the final analysis that those employees are reporting the correct income and claiming eligible deductions and credits. You also have filing tax returns. So the IRS requires taxpayers to attach a copy of their W-2 form when filing their federal income tax returns. So this helps the IRS cross-verify the income reported on the tax return with the income reported by the employer. So it's all about a two-way verification purpose. You also have verification. You also have compliance and auditing. So employers use the W-2 form to demonstrate compliance with tax withholding and reporting requirements. It serves as a record of their tax obligations, and this is subject to auditing by tax authorities. And here you also have, I'm not just talking about federal authorities. You also are talking about state and local tax authorities. I mean, we are speaking about county, for instance, or also a city tax authorities, if those authorities are applicable to your jurisdiction. You also have record keeping. You also have economic data analysis. So government agencies and researchers use aggregated W-2 data to analyze income trends, economic conditions, and the overall tax base. And you also have IRS compliance checks if those are applicable to you. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about the Form W-2. I want to talk to you about timing here. So basically, when we talk about the timing, so when should the W-2s be filed at all? Well, your employees' W-2s should be received by both current and former employees by January 31st each year. So that's actually the kickoff of the tax season, if you will. The W-2 forms also need to be filed with the Social Security Administration by January 31st. So it's the same deadline here. So a one-time 30-day extension is possible for businesses that cannot file by that date. But it's important to note that the extension is only for filing with the SSA. Employees still must receive their W-2 form by January 31st, because otherwise it will be putting a lot of extra pressure on their shoulders. And also note that any W-2s which are returned as undeliverable must actually be kept on file for 4 years. 4 years. And the cool thing is, if you use a payroll service provider, it is actually likely that your W-2s will be prepared for you, though it remains your responsibility as an employer to ensure that the information on them is accurate and the forms are sent in a timely manner. And this is actually a regulatory requirements, by the way. And so, what do you need to fill out a W-2? Well, you basically need the downloadable Form W-2 PDF. You can have it in PDF. You got to have the personal information for each employee, including the name, address, and social security number, your employer EIN number, the total amount of wages and/or tips paid for each employee, the total federal, state, and local taxes withheld for each employee, the total Social Security and Medicare taxes withheld for each employee, deductions for dependent care assistance programs for each employee, and other compensation and benefits, including elective deferrals for retirement plans and the cost of employer-sponsored health coverage for each employee. Okay, and one thing I want to say here is that it's one of those things where it's just a lot better to outsource the whole thing to a third party. This could be a payroll software or a payroll service to kind of help you out, because it's one of those things where you have the regulation, but you also have the record keeping, and that's not really always, it's not always easy all the time. So you want to make sure, if possible, of course, if your budget so allows, to outsource the whole thing to a third party. And the reason why you want to outsource the whole thing to a third party is that W-2 forms work in a specific way, not only in terms of automating the tax compliance requirements, but also making sure that you as a taxpayer, as a business taxpayer, you actually abide by your responsibilities in terms of giving employees their W-2 forms, also sending to the SSA the W-2 forms and W-3 forms. And it's one of those things where you have to also think about the timing. Okay, employers generally send out W-2 forms in January of each year, as I just said, right? January 31st, that's actually the date. So if an employer does not provide a W-2 form, the employee cannot really file their tax returns unless they request one from the IRS. They always have the option of requesting that from the IRS. The information on the W-2 form includes the employee's name and address and social security number. It also includes the amount of money earned during the year and federal, state, and local taxes withheld. So when you really think about it, it's really, really a recap, a pretty effective recap, if you will, of the employee's total tax situation. That way, you have a clear idea what really happened with that employee throughout the year. One thing I want to say here is that when we talk about W-2 form, please make sure that the date of birth, things like date of birth, social security number, and information about the employee's dependents, those pieces of information are accurate because they have a direct impact, if you will, on the employee's eligibility for, let's say, for benefits such as social security, or also in terms of taxes. Okay, and the IRS actually tracks those elements at a very granular level. So you want to make sure that you are properly sort of documenting that. Now, as an employer, you also need to know how much money was earned during the year and how much was withheld for taxes. So once all of this information has been gathered, you as an employer, you will fill out the appropriate fields on the W-2 form and send it out to the employee. But nowadays, a lot of small businesses, they just automate everything. They do it electronically and through a third-party payroll service. And this is just better that way. Tips to close to this conversation. So I want to really talk to you about how to complete the Form W-2. Pretty straightforward. I mean, at a very high level here. So you want to download the form. Always make sure that you go to the IRS website to get the latest W-2 form, because the IRS updates this form every single year. So it's just better to go to the IRS website to download the form so you are sure that you get the right form. And you want to fill out the first part with your details. You want to talk about, your employee's social security number, your EIN as an employer, your employer's name, address. All those things are kind of straightforward, nothing complicated. So, and then you have a federal income tax withheld, social security, wages. And one thing I want to say here is that I want to mention the fact that there are some boxes, there are some sections, if you will, on W-2 that are not applicable to all businesses. So you want to make sure that your business checks the right forms, the right sections. And this is why I was just going back to what I said. It's just a lot better to outsource the filling, the completion of that form. You want to outsource that to a third party, because when you have a third party do it for you, they are so used to doing it. They have experience. They have expertise in terms of knowing which section applies to your specific business. That way you are avoiding errors. But if you were to do it yourself, just make sure that you go with the right boxes in terms of locality name, local income taxes, local wages, tips, state income taxes, state wages, tips, state EIN. If you want to talk about non-qualified deferred compensation plans, you want to talk about deferred compensation plans, non-qualified plans in general, dependent care benefits. You want to talk about also advanced EIC payments, allocated payments. So when we talk about EIC, we are speaking about earned income credits, and but this is actually will be applicable if there are any advanced payments the employer made for the earned income credits on the employee's behalf. Okay, and so this is kind of, now if the employee doesn't qualify for EIC, this box can be left blank, not a problem. So long story short, this is an idea of the Form W-2 in case you want to complete it by yourself. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Let's quickly do a recap of today's conversation. So I was talking to you about Form W-2. So I gave you the steps, the overview, the pro tips, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.